September 4th, 476 AD. Rome had stood for 1,229 years. It had survived plagues, assassinations, civil wars, barbarian raids. But on this specific day, historians agree, something happened that nobody inside the empire saw coming. The shocking part? The last emperor of Rome was 16 years old, and he had no idea it was over. To understand what happens in the last 24 hours, you need to understand what Rome had already become. Because by 476 AD, the empire wasn't what your history book showed you. It was a ghost, wearing golden armor. The population of Rome had collapsed, from 1 million people to just 500,000. The army, once the most feared military machine in human history, was now mostly made up of the same Germanic tribes they had spent centuries trying to conquer. In fact, the man who would end the Roman Empire wasn't even Roman. His name was Odoacer, and he was eating dinner in a Roman barracks the night before history changed forever. But here's what nobody tells you. The last emperor didn't die. He wasn't executed. He wasn't even imprisoned. He was sent to a villa in southern Italy and given a pension. The greatest empire in human history ended, not with a war, not with a battle, but with paperwork. So let's run the simulation. 24 hours, hour by hour. What actually happened on the day Rome died? The night before, Odoacer's forces had already surrounded Ravenna, the city that had replaced Rome as the western capital. Romulus Augustulus was not a warrior. He was a boy, placed on a throne by his father as a political puppet. His father was already dead, killed by Odoacer's forces weeks earlier. The boy emperor was alone. By dawn, the palace guards had made a decision that would never appear in any official record. They simply stopped showing up. Not a betrayal, not a dramatic resignation. They just didn't come to their posts because they hadn't been paid in 4 months. The Roman Empire, which had once paid its soldiers in gold, was broke, and nobody fights for free. By noon, Odoacer's forces had entered the palace. No battle, no resistance, no last stand. The most powerful military empire in history surrendered its capital city without a single sword being drawn. Romulus Augustulus met Odoacer in the throne room. He was described by witnesses as almost too handsome and too young to inspire hatred. Odoacer looked at this teenage boy sitting in the most powerful chair in the known world and made a decision that shocked his own generals. He let him live. The documents were signed at approximately 3 in the afternoon. Romulus Augustulus officially abdicated. He signed his name. Romulus, the same name as the mythical founder of Rome itself. The symmetry wasn't lost on anyone in that room. The man who founded Rome was named Romulus. The man who ended it was named Romulus. 1,229 years between them. And then something happened that is perhaps the strangest detail in all of Roman history. The news barely spread. No announcements, no riots, no mourning. In Constantinople, the eastern capital, Emperor Zeno received a letter from Odoacer explaining what had happened. He didn't declare war. He didn't send an army. He wrote back acknowledging Odoacer as a regional governor. And then he went back to whatever he was doing. The greatest empire in the history of the Western world ended. And most people alive that day never even found out. But here's where it gets interesting. We ran the simulation. What if Rome didn't fall that day? What if Odoacer's army had been turned back at the gates? The answer will change how you see everything around you right now. Historians call this the most consequential what if in all of human civilization. Because Rome wasn't just a country. It was an operating system for human society. Roads, law, sewage, medicine, architecture, language. When Rome fell, Europe didn't get a new operating system for 800 years. That gap, historians call it the Dark Ages. 800 years of collapsed literacy, collapsed trade, collapsed medicine. One afternoon of paperwork in a palace in Ravenna cost humanity 800 years of progress. Let that land. But here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. Every historian who has studied the fall of Rome has noted the same pattern. The people living inside the empire didn't know it was falling. The economy felt unstable, but had felt unstable before. The borders felt porous, but had felt porous before. The government felt corrupt, but had felt corrupt before. They had normalized the symptoms so thoroughly that the collapse felt like just another bad year. One historian put it this way: the Romans did not wake up one day to find their empire gone. They simply woke up one day and it wasn't there anymore. And that pattern of great systems collapsing quietly, without drama, without warning, has repeated itself every single time a great power has fallen. The Ottoman Empire, the British Empire, the Soviet Union. They all felt permanent from the inside, right until the day they weren't. The last emperor of Rome lived until approximately 507 AD. He outlived the empire by 31 years. He spent them quietly in his villa by the sea. Historians believe he may have never fully understood what he had been part of. A 16-year-old boy, the last emperor of the greatest civilization the world had ever built, retired, on a pension, watching the sea. In our next simulation, we're asking a different question. What if the empire that falls next is one you're living inside right now? Stay with us.